Good morning there, folks. Just getting everything dialed in on my end, grabbing my coffee, getting all set. If anybody's looking to engage, don't hesitate to throw in a request. I'll get to it ASAP. Good morning.
Breakdown hook. Breakdown hook. Instrumental section.
Alrighty. I think I got everything dialed in. Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Sunday wherever they're at. I saw a couple of things were already thrown into the purple pill, which is fantastic. I'm going to just switch some screens over here on my side so that the folks following along on video can see what we're looking at here. We got from magnetized plasma. This test first came to light in 1986 on a Polish television station. We've had the ability to shoot drones down with lasers for 50 years. Well, I imagine we could shoot down more than just drones then, right? And what the heck is a drone? Just an unmanned airframe. You know, a lot of people imagine that, drones must be small, but there's a history of unmanned airframes moving around, and I mean, I certainly am of the opinion that any airframe can be automated into a drone state now. Somebody had asked in a space that I was in yesterday, they said, do you think that they can put directed energy weapons on drones? And I said, do you think they can't turn any airframe into a drone? So, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for sharing that one, Mr. Plasma. And then we got this other one here. Oh, I think I've seen this VTOL thing before. Oh, haven't seen him dropped out of the back of Herc's before. VBATs. U.S. VBAT drone to be armed with South Korean laser-guided munition. Shield AI has confirmed that its VBAT VTOL. It sounds like something out of G.I. Joe, like Cobra. The VBAT will be integrated with South Korea's LMDM laser-guided munition developed in cooperation with LIG Next One. The integration allows medium-class tactical drones to conduct precision strike missions, not just intelligence and surveillance. VBAT can operate without a runway, launching from ships and remote or infrastructure-limited areas. L-MDM uses semi-active laser guidance and is designed to engage fixed and moving ground targets, including in GPS-denied or contested environments. The move reflects expanding U.S. Republic of Korea cooperation in unmanned systems and highlights the evolving role of tactical UAVs in modern military operations. Yeah, look at these suckers. They look rather nimble. I wonder what their payload capacity is for gearing them up. be quite the issue to contend with. You get a couple of Hercs flying over you, and then quite a few batches of those things being dropped into the battle arena. It's gonna be like the Terminator movie soon, which I guess is appropriate for Magnetized Plasma's face there. I'm gonna click on you just to bring it up. Yeah, this is very appropriate. Folks, welcome to the face of your future enemies that are right around the corner. Oh, Skynet, where have you been all of my life? Yeah, so, the Department of War, we don't need a Department of Defense anymore. We need a Department of War, has confirmed this week that directed energy weapons are real. They have them, and they're scaling them up. As I stated in the title of this space, directed energy weapons exist. Since when? Right? They're admitting that they have them. They're admitting that they're going to be scaling them up. Boy, does that beg a lot of questions. It would be like the Department of War coming out and be like, we have firearms. We admit it. We're going to make better ones. Well, A, for those paying attention, it's obvious. But what's the state of the union on where they're at technologically? That would be a more informed statement if they gave, any insight. I love using the umbrella term directed energy weapons because it avoids a lot of the bickering that happens in the communities as to, what specifically is going on. But that's, from the angle that I'm firing from. When it comes to the Department of War, them admitting that they have directed energy weapons is using the most generalized, all-encompassing term. That folder, so to say, that contains all of the information about all the potential directed energy weapons is fucking huge. So fucking huge. And it's, I would imagine there's now more a variety of directed energy weapons integrated into what would be standard airframes for the sky, vehicles on the ground, Navy vessels, that we may have a larger directed energy weapons portfolio right now than what most folks know of conventional kinetic weapons. There could have been that much integration unbeknownst to most of us. And that's wild. I had put up in the post, I had put up in the nest, there was this clip that I had come across where it was Japan's former finance minister admitted he handed over control of the Japanese financial system to a group of American and European oligarchs because Japan had been threatened by an earthquake machine. Go figure. I kind of remember testifying in Washington, D.C. to the Senate Intelligence Committee and Arrow specifically about an earthquake-generating device located at the South Pole Station. And we can all see what they did with that information and how well the community received it and did due diligence to try to either discount my information or, for the most part, just completely ignore that I ever spoke publicly. But now that the Department of War has come out and confirmed that directed energy weapons exist, I suggest folks, as Joe Biden would say regularly, circle back and consider the concept of earthquake-inducing devices and look into the decades of research and investment into the faction's desire to manufacture such a device. When I went to school, we were taught inferencing skills. And it's my understanding that a lot of people did not have that as part of their education. And I wonder if that's why so many of the minds that I seem to engage are very crippled when it comes to certain conversations, is they don't have the ability to apply inferencing skills, or the other word that I like is extrapolation. You know, I remember being tested in school where they would give you a story and you would have to read the story. And there would be a whole bunch of questions afterwards that you had to answer. But officially, like, none of the information was actually in the story. So you had to infer things. And there are actual ways of doing it correctly and making mistakes. Hence, you could pass or fail the test. I wonder if there's online apps now that can teach people to up their inferencing skills, because the powers that be aren't going to simply write everything out for you. Sometimes you have to take a piece of information from here, take a piece of information from there, and apply your own ability to infer what's really going on. So it's been basically, my whole life. This is when I first came out, about 6 years ago, I started under the umbrella term of deciphering my experience, because I didn't know exactly what was going on either. But I know the path that I walked, the people that I've met, the facilities that I've worked at, the documentation that I could acquire and have provided to Washington, D.C. And does it necessarily prove beyond a shadow of a doubt 100% what I suggest? Of course not. But from my perspective, it's very easy for me to infer what the big picture is, and it would be terrible if I withheld that from people. So I don't. I let people know what I think from the path that I walked, because no one else can speak for it. And as I mentioned on the Sean Ryan show a few years back, almost immediately on the front end, because I had no idea how the interview was going to go, but Sean kind of said something like, "So what are you here to talk about? What does everybody need to know?" And I basically said that the world needs to get the word directed energy weapons into their vocabulary, and fast. And now here we are, Department of War. Directed energy weapons exist. We got them, and we're scaling them up. That's another thing that I shared with everybody, is that the Ice Cube neutrino detector at South Pole Station is right now undergoing being scaled up to 10 times its previous size. So I don't know how much more of the things that I've been saying for the past 6 years are going to be proven to be 100% true. But at some point, people need to start paying attention before we have the T-1000s in the street, being satellite commanded to a neighborhood like yours, and basically, kicking in doors and making sure that you reconnect your Wi-Fi because the government's trying to monitor you. I'm going to check here, see if there's anything new coming in. Yeah, I see Ashton Forbes has been making some good posts too. He's another guy that, basically has been, on the front lines, on point, suggesting that people need to focus on the technology, the tech that's been hidden for God knows how long. Oh, one of the things I came across, I was in a conversation yesterday, and when it comes to, directed energy weapons exist and since when, here's something folks need to consider, right? Everybody knows that if you take some electronics and you put it in your microwave and you turn the microwave on, It's going to destroy the electronics. It's not good for metal. It's detrimental. Everybody knows this. So what do you think happens if you to not focus the microwave inside the device, the microwave beam inside your cooking device in your kitchen, right? It's shielded, it protects you and the stuff around it, how it's manufactured. But if you were to direct that beam, I don't know, at like a plane or a car, what would happen to those electronics? What would happen to the metal that it hits? So we all know the answers to that. It's very detrimental to those items. Well, let's not forget that Raytheon invented the microwave back, I believe, in the 1940s. It used to be called the radar range, microwave radar beams. So this is extremely suggestive that the weapons manufacturer, prior to giving you a device to cook in your kitchen, was well aware of the fact of the damage that this beam could do to electronics and vehicular systems, whether airframes, land-based, ocean-based. So this technology, at the very least, this one form of directed energy weapon, we can infer, has been in use since the 1940s. It's one of the most easiest things to infer. There's nothing that would have to be changed about this technology from back then until now that would provide for that level of function. And if they had that level of function, you think they're not using it. And that's just one device that we're rapidly approaching 100 years of being in service. We're now officially closer to it being 100 years than 50 years. 100 years of directed energy weapons being utilized right under our nose while the factions lie to us about the level of technology that we've acquired. We, the people, have invested in this stuff, and we don't even reap the benefit of the technological advancement that we should. Instead, we suffer under it. We have people running around now with anomalous health incidents and Havana syndrome symptoms. I would say that that's just simply the collateral damage of modern warfare. There was a time when conventional munitions, smart bombs, were being marketed and propagandized to the public, like as if we were making precision strikes and we could target an individual and only that one person gets hurt. It's so great. It's a much safer way to have war. But we've learned since then that there was absolutely collateral damage, potentially less, but it appears that most of that stuff was a smokescreen just to justify more activity. So I think the same concept is being rolled out when it comes to directed energy weapons. Hence, we just had this whole Venezuela disclosure situation, and the idea being that only the bad guys get targeted and no one else gets hurt. Limited collateral damage. And guess what? I'm not buying it. Just seems like more of the, what's the term? The war hawks or whatever, that just want to keep everybody convinced that war is safer than it used to be. Oh, I got Mr. Magnetized Plasma putting up more images. I'm a real person, by the way. Here's a recent image of me recovering from surgery after that's a rough day. Sorry that you're on the mend, but I hope you mend well, sir, and quickly. I just want to make it clear that I try to keep an open mind, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, well, that character is one of the people that seems to be working against me. By all means, be Switzerland, but when folks treat me the way that that guy treated me, I don't consider them a friend. What is this? It's funny how people would say extremely low frequency directed RF attacks could never damage someone. And then there's this. Oh yeah, look at that beast. Looks similar to it looks similar to equipment I've seen at the South Pole Station. A lot of plumbing on that thing, eh? That's what I always laugh at. You know, everybody says, what would a plumber know? Well, I know there's a big manifold on the left side of that with a whole bunch of quarter-turn ball valves. I know what we're looking at right there in this image that Magnetized Plasma put up, this Thales device. That's simply fancy plumbing. That's something I could be taught in about 15 minutes, probably, how to function by whoever's currently operating it. It's a very interesting image. Oh, I can click on that thing and read more. Ah, there's not that much more. Yeah, it's got, I mean, super standard plumbing fittings and hoses. It's pretty wild. Huh. Thanks for posting that, Mr. Magnetized Plasma. Yeah, again, if anybody wants to hop into this space and engage, don't hesitate. I'm typically a terrible monologuer, but I have not done spaces in a bit, so there's a bit more information out and about since a lot has gone on this week. Hey, good morning there, Dank. How you doing today? Oh, Greenland topic. That's another one that's been coming up recently. I don't know if anybody out there is familiar with what was called Camp Century, built in the tail end of the 1960s over in Greenland. And it was presented as a science facility being built into the ice. But it turned out they were trying to sneak in nuclear missile silos. So, secret ice facility, false pretense of science, but in fact weaponized. I think I testified about something like that at the South Pole Station. Another interesting thing about the connection between the South Pole Station and the Greenland facility is that you can go look this up on YouTube. There are videos that show in great detail the construction process of Camp Century, how they removed the ice, put in corrugated steel arches, covered them back up, how they made tunnel systems with a machine that would go in and cut through the existing ice, and then like a snow thrower, they would set up a chute to take all the ice that was being removed to excavate the space for a tunnel and then launch it through the ceiling and out of the tunnel. The process that they used to construct Camp Century was the exact same method for the arch system and tunnel systems at the South Pole Station. So I would infer that since the construction processes were identical, that there's a high probability that the missions were identical to build facilities under the false pretense of being science facilities with the secondary goal of being to cover up the weapon systems that you're installing that you're not supposed to. Just makes a little bit of sense, you know. Where we're saying that Greenland's really important because it's going to defend us from attacks coming over the Arctic pole. Well, cool. Because Admiral Byrd warned us after his expeditions about the potential for attacks coming from over the southern pole. I would imagine we would need as much protection from that direction as well. And if they were to want to provide some protection, we should look for similar activities on the southern pole as we do the northern one. Oh, wait, we do have similar activities. We have identical activities. Like literally identical activities. And one has already been outed as a secret weapons facility under the false pretenses of science. It's not a hard leap of logic to say South Pole Station's the exact same fucking thing. Oh, especially when you work there and find 3 directed energy weapon systems. It'll probably be about another 20 years before everything I said is verified by others. But like the Rolling Stones say, time is on my side. Does anybody even know who the Rolling Stones are anymore? A rapper sang about Mick Jagger not that long ago, so I think there was a refresher course for people. You got them moves like Jagger. Pauses, sips coffee. Come on, somebody's going to want to feel like talking today. Put in that request. Be bold. You can do it. Just scrolling through, seeing who we got in the mix here. It's always good to keep an eye on who's keeping an eye on you. Most of the folks in here I've seen in here before. It's a beautiful thing. Only one rando at the bottom, which is a beautiful thing as well. I learned recently, I know a lot of people freak out when they have anonymous listeners because I don't know why exactly, but I learned that apparently this X Spaces conversation is on some sort of a system that X, the platform, I guess kind of like purchased to use for these chat groups, and apparently these conversations are not just available on X. They're available in other locations as well. So when people listen from those other platforms, they just show up in the, random listener category. So it's not necessarily the most horrible thing in the world. It could be looked at positively that, there's people listening on a broader spectrum, which is great. Get some word out there. Good morning there, Mr. Wolf. I hope you're having a wonderful day. We're having a great chat here this morning. Directed energy weapons exist, according to the Department of War now. But since when? They didn't kind of mention that part. They just like, today we have them. Oh, and we're scaling them up. Just so you know. We have them and we're making them bigger, badder, and better. Just so you know. But man, to me, it just begs the question of like, okay, you have them. Directed energy weapons is a big umbrella term. Can you be a little bit more precise about the tools in your toolkit? Oh, lovely Department of War. When you scale up, what size are you at now? How up is up? I would imagine that we're probably going to see some domestic use of directed energy weapons in the, what is it, Minneapolis that's going ballistic right now? We need some more civil unrest. Get some drone-operated directed energy weapons over the crowds. Some will be used to incite them to a higher state of rage. Then those ones won't be discussed, though. But then they'll deploy the new ones that they want to discuss, and they'll be like, look how we stopped the rioting crowd by just, we didn't blow them up with bombs. We used the discombobulator, which just shook their brains really fast in their head at, many pulses per second so that they, vomited and bled out their eyes, nose, and ears. But they didn't die, so it's non-lethal weapons. So that's fantastic. You're welcome. We saved you from a riot we started. I did approve your request, Mr. Wolf. I'm not sure if it worked because I'm still seeing you as a listener. Wah, wah, wah. Oop. I just hit the
As far as I know, it should be working.
Oh, now I got you.
I'm just finishing up a slide relating to one of Frank Herbert's ideas in his writings, and the idea is called the Bureau of Sabotage, or BUSAB. And think of it, it's a space fantasy, space opera kind of story, but scale it down to Earth, right? Mm-hmm. Imagine you are a nation state with a vested interest in remaining independent from the control of others. So you want to have your own resources, your own food production, your energy production, so on. Now, let's say that in order to monitor other nation states for signs of aggression, you look at how they are designing their roads. Can their roads be used to move heavy war equipment? Well, no. Okay, well, last month they started building some. Oh, no, these are just new heavy-duty roads. Maybe. And then you track other signs of infrastructure development, second and third and fourth order effects, and you combine that with your civilian and military intelligence gathering, and you're able to infer from essentially the nonverbal communication of a citizen, of a country or civilization, what the second and third order planning is, right? What their logistics and contingency plans are. And that relates to the whole infrastructure of dual purpose technologies, like DEWs, and dual purpose installations, like scientific and research outposts in faraway lands. Get where I'm going with that idea?
Yeah, absolutely, because we're already doing all of that. That department exists. We have that. I mean, I'm over here in Alaska where we have a limited amount of roads. Big state, lots of wide open spaces, limited roads. Okay, I live near the airport. The one of 3 airports in the whole freaking state, and the only commercial airport in Anchorage, Alaska, Ted Stevens International Airport. All right, you have the main drag that comes from exiting the airport, going towards the main highway, and there's basically like no immediate intersection, and I was told that they avoided that easy connection for the locals because heaven forbid we were ever invaded, the invaders would take over the airport, and by allowing them that access would make like the invaders' life easier. So, you know, the citizens suffer, so potential invaders won't have a grand time. But yeah, infrastructure, all of that stuff is paid attention to. I mean, this is why we're even hearing, you know, about the threats to our infrastructure. I'm sure that there's other departments of espionage in other lands similar to the Herbert stuff. I mean, a lot of these things, you know, you can call it science fiction, or it's just a way of fanciful writing about things that are already ongoing as a way to illustrate it for people in a way that doesn't get other people in trouble. I think that's what, I can never remember the guy's name. The guy that gets credit for the Hunt for Red October book. And, Tom Clancy.
Oh, Clancy.
Yeah, so I mean, all I can do is say I was told that in the Navy that was a true story. It was part of my training. So immediately I had to, I guess, resolve the fact that he's not an author. Right? It's not a fiction story, so he didn't write it. So what do we retitle that activity of him getting that information and distributing it as his work?
That would be technically propaganda, and that is a neutral term. It can be
that's being polite,
or sideways, you know.
Right.
But yeah, you'd be surprised actually at how many science fiction authors, it's more than any of us would expect, were actually either monitored by the CIA and the FBI, or actually supported by them in terms of offering them work or commissioning projects to be written.
I think stepped up. I think this is a way to cut out and propagandize. So having been in the circles that I've been in for a bit now, Wolf, I see a lot of authors running the circuit, right? You know, the speaker panels and all of that stuff, right? I'm going to infer that many of these authors are set up as businesses for the purpose of narrative control and perception management, right? So pretend I'm the CIA and you're an asset that I'm trying to develop, and I come to you, Wolf, and I go, here's the deal, man. We're going to hand you books. Your name is going to go on them. You're going to produce them. You get all of the credit, all of the money's going to come in. You're going to run the circuit. You're going to speak on these topics, and you're going to stick to the narrative that's in the book. We're going to basically hand you the script, right? This is not hard to consider. Then, they don't even have to be good books. Because guess what, Wolf? Every time you put a book out, we're going to buy them from you. We have a budget for that. So now you look like an accomplished author. It's a way for us to fund you. And then, oh, by the way, all the money that you make from those books that we put into your coffers, we're going to backdoor some of that right back to us. Just, because we're cool, right? You're cool, we're cool, we hook you up. You're going to get us
back. Like a venture capitalist.
Yes, this weird little dynamic that can occur. And the really interesting thing, because I've met people that have written their books, legitimate authors. And then I've met people that I believe never wrote their books, because the weird thing about folks that actually write their books is they know the content. Right? They literally can be like, oh, I discussed that in book such and such, chapter 2, page 4, third paragraph, because they put effort into it. And then there's other people. What's that?
Patrick McDavid.
Brad Olson.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of these people out there that they don't even know their own work. And they fumfer through their own stuff. They will literally be on video grabbing their own book and fighting to find their own information and often failing. And it amazes me that people don't notice these very important details.
This need not even be that nefarious. For example, if you were someone whose psych profile, this is a generic you, indicated loyalty to the government, right, to the narrative fable that the government tells you your country is, well, then you're loyal to your nation. You're a loyal American or Canadian or UK citizen, whatever the paradigm is. Don't you want to serve your country and make money too?
Oh, totally. The whole
Who turns that down?
That's a big one. Is that patriotism is taken advantage of? Absolutely.
With a trademark beside patriotism. Patriotism, TM.
Yeah. Yes, I think that is super common, and this is, we have. I was in a space yesterday with a younger guy, and he was talking about, like, he clearly remembers, like, thinking, like, I can't wait to grow up and join the military. Like, he thought it was the most patriotic, like, thing that he can do, and that's the right thing. And we both kind of chuckled at now, in hindsight, we can realize that, like, that was just functioning propaganda machine. Is to make a portion of the youth just like that's all they can think about. And then now you put them through that process, you actually then do militarize them, and then a percentage of those come out super gung-ho, hoorah, and then you pull them aside and you go, we got super secret squirrel mission. Now you can be like super patriot guy. I think this is how the cells work. Like when the CIA, the FBI run around saying that they're, investigating terrorist cells and stuff. No, they're making them. They manufacture them so that they have them, like, at the ready. And it's, the false pretense of, you're a patriot. And then next thing you know, I mean, how many times have we found out that, the feds arrested someone because that person intended to blow up a building. And like, well, yeah, we know that because, we gave him a fake bomb, and we told him to go blow up a building, and that motherfucker, he hit the button on the fake bomb, so that means, like, he believed it was a real bomb and took the direction. And it's like, well, hold on a second. You guys gave him the direction. You guys gave him a fake bomb. You guys set this guy up. Oh, and then the only thing that they have to do, apparently, is if they ever do want to blow anything up in the future, is just get that guy all riled up in the exact same way, but this time don't give him a fake bomb. Oh, and then call that guy a terrorist.
I interacted with my dog while you were chatting. I didn't mean for the mic to be open. Sorry about that.
Oh, barely heard any debacle. We didn't hear you kicking the dog, Wolf. It's all right. No, I'm just kidding.
No.
I'm just kidding. I know you never would.
He's got a bad habit of pissing in front of the refrigerator, even though he's potty trained to use paper, because he wants the cats staying away from the beef box. Right?
Oh, there you go. Little territorial activity.
Yeah, he'll piss on their toys too, which is endlessly frustrating.
You need to have a doggy department of espionage inspired by the cats.
Wow, my bigger cat likes to fuck with them. My bigger cat weighs more than the dog does. My biggest
No
cat
shit.
is 20 pounds. He's a big mackerel tabby who's not fat. He's just a big fucking cat.
Uh-huh.
My dog is 18 or 19 pounds, depending on the season. He gains a pound in winter generally.
That's hilarious. So the cat can technically tune up the dog?
Oh, it's always been the case, right? And since Bingo, my cat, was a kitten, when they were introduced, they played and frolicked. But as soon as Bingo got full size, he's got ninja cat skills and ninja cat fingers, and he likes to play ambush the dog, right? The dog isn't having any of it anymore. It's not fun.
In the grand scheme of Austin Powers, have you considered dogs with freaking laser beams?
He's not shy about vocalizing his displeasure. I can usually step in.
You could probably
Cats are
do
smart. What dog?
A strap-on laser pointer on the dog's head just to drive the cats nuts as the dog's walking around and the laser pointer's going everywhere. Oh, I see you got knocked down. That was not me, sir. Technical difficulties, but I'm bringing you back up.
I heard you.
Excellent.
I'm sorry for that. I
worries.
clicked on my home button to refresh, and it kicked me out of the room. So all kinds of shit's going on.
Oh, it's all good. I've actually had a bear of a time getting into spaces this week, and you know,
Me too.
I'm glad to hear that everybody else is having difficulties because, I always say just because. What is that phrase? That paranoia one about just because they're after me doesn't mean I'm paranoid or something like that.
Right. That's true. Yeah, it can kind of make you wonder, like, am I being targeted or suppressed or something?
Well, yeah, it makes me wonder for sure because, like, I mean, we had the disclosure from the Department of War about directed energy weapons existing, and then I couldn't be in a space for like more than 30 seconds without the sound kicking out. So, but yes, so it increased my level of paranoia from the standard high levels.
Don't let anyone short sell you on functional paranoia, only in this dimension, right? Not genuine schizoid paranoia, but the fact that you cannot trust any human hybrid institution like a government or a corporation because they don't respond to human incentive structures.
Right.
Therefore, you be paranoid about that. Be functionally paranoid about that.
Yeah, I think that's an appropriate position to operate from. Yeah, I've always, how do I put it? I've always felt there's no need. So like, this is more like work related in my experience. I don't ever have to trust you. You just have to deliver.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Does that make sense? Like when I'm on the job site and someone's, I give them something to do and they're like, oh, trust me, I'm going to get it done. I don't have to trust you. You just have to get it done.
Yes, this is Yoda, right? Do or do not. There is no try.
Got you.
In some things, that is correct. That's the correct framing. Because if you're only going to try, how convicted are you to succeed? How much will you push yourself? How much genuine understanding do you have of the consequences of failure or the implications of failure? Not necessarily consequences, but implications.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important, right?
Yeah, just make it happen.
Yeah. Do it or don't do it. No excuses, no recrimination. If you promise something, if you understand what a promise is, you deliver. And if you don't, it happens once, before genuine contrition, comes in and you're willing to work to remedy it, right? You recalibrate things. Verify, do not trust, right?
Yes.
The age of trust is now over.
Yeah. And that also makes me think of, we have what we call lockout, tag out procedures. When you're isolating equipment, whether it's, electrical energy, pneumatic, whatever it is, safety wise. The true term is lockout, tag out, and try. Meaning test, like don't trust, like just because you believe that the power is de-energized. Like you still go back with an electrical tester after you knock the circuit breaker off.
That's right.
You don't even trust yourself in that situation.
This is why there are checklists in military circumstances, because military precision is required, or people die. It may not even be people in the immediate vicinity. It may be consequential deaths that result on your failure in a chain of what should be a reliable outputs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Drilled, tested, trained, equipped, funded, and you forget a simple thing. You don't verify. I'm sorry, you don't trust, you verify.
Yeah, it's actually funny. I'm gonna pull this full circle since we're discussing lockout, tag out procedures, directed energy weapons, what could possibly be out there. I remember my training in the submarine service. If they were going to have divers in the water in proximity to the hull of the boat doing whatever they needed to do in the water, the active sonar system would have to be lockout and tag out, de-energized. Because if an active sonar ping was to go off, it would for lack of a better term, pretty much like melt the divers and kill them. Like it's just it would be bad. So
It's that energetic. Holy shit.
oh yeah, a lot of people don't realize, except for certain PETA type groups, active sonar pings from a submarine decimate biological entities for a very large swath around it. Lays waste to what's in the ocean when they do an active ping, which is why the divers need to be protected by a lockout tag out procedure. But now back to inferencing skills. What if that type of device? Looks like my mute might have got weird. Can you hear me?
Your mic went all wonky. I can.
Yeah, it did one of those mystery mutes for a second. But so now just consider that the active sonar system for a submarine can kill biological organisms. Kill them. Right now, just like let's just take that technology, scale it however you need to scale it, mount it on an airframe of your choice, helicopter, plane, balloons.
Toyota Hilux truck.
Yeah, Toyota Hilux truck, Humvee, there's potential for this technology to kill people. It's just that simple. Like this, and oh, gee, well, how long have we had sonar? Oh, I don't know. Was that like the 1940s too, Wolf?
Yeah, but consider also how much time passed between the Wright brothers and, the first jets, and then the Saturn rockets.
Right.
Like,
yeah,
shit.
I'm of the opinion right now that the Wright brothers' operation was some sort of narrative control, perception management, similar to now how the Department of War is like, we have directed energy weapons. I think that there was a lot of engineering going on for aeronautical activities. I would put it on Long Island, because North Carolina, out of nowhere, we get a couple of bicycle mechanics, slap some canvas together on some bicycle piping, rudimentary engine, and boom, North Carolina gets to have the license plate that says first in flight. Woohoo! They figured out how to fly. And then it seems like you mentioned, Wolf, like almost overnight, we take massive leaps, but those leaps were taken on Long Island, which is less commonly known to be referred to as the cradle of aviation. I think those terms matter more than most people pay attention to. Birthplace of aviation, cradle of aviation. Almost all of the amazing advancements in the aerospace industry occurred on Long Island. Oh, which was heartily full of Germans and a recipient of most of the Operation Paperclip Nazis. Had a camp on the East End. Anybody ever hear of Wardenclyffe? Nikola Tesla's facility? How many people know that Wardenclyffe is pretty much across the street from Brookhaven National Labs, which is across the street from Camp Siegfried, the Nazi Bund facility? The coincidental proximity associations are very interesting. I've been saying for years that, all roads lead to Brookhaven National Labs when it comes to secret science. Nikola Tesla stated many years ago that there are places on the planet that are better for studying energy than others. Well, apparently the folks at Brookhaven National Labs agree. Apparently, Mr. Catacasinos, the former owner of the Long Island Lighting Company, which was the privately owned utilities company that got the only license in the history of the world to build their own nuclear reactor. Oh, also across the street from Brookhaven National Labs, Camp Siegfried, and Wardenclyffe. I mean, you could just keep stacking up weird facilities in this one area of Long Island.
it into the dual purpose nature of much technology. We are as creatures of technology, very inventive at repurposing, tools in the environment. Look at what an otter can do with a rock, right? Look at what a person can do with two stones, flinting those stones together to then make tools, to make the other tools you need, to make the other tools you need, to make the tools you really want to have, right?
Uh-huh.
So there's a chain of development there. And what you're describing is almost a fitness testing, an open source kind of audition / fitness test for people who are willing to play with the state in incorporating other interests to join together in a venture called, a country, right? The actual stakeholders in the risk and reward level of play, I guess, that a nation state has, and dual purposing your military technology through deniable civilian, right, outstructure.
Uh-huh.
We see that in the civilian world itself. So everything we imagine happening in the military that is seemingly kind of fiction centered, right? It's like that movie. It's for a reason, right? You elided it a moment ago. They pre-plant or they seed ideas so that you can later be nudged to one direction or another, not completely, not
Right.
totally reliably, but significantly enough that it's worth the investment. Clear?
Right. Like, what percentage of the scripts for all movies are touched by some aspect of the Department of War, to make sure that they've, seeded enough propaganda throughout the industry's productions for the year? A line in a movie over here, a scene in a movie over there. Which weapons are shown to people to, be eye candy for the G.I. Joe loving boys of a generation. I can't even imagine how much collusion, collaboration, conspiring occurs between Hollywood, which, not necessarily just movies, but television and every bit of that. Imagine if we could get a bird's eye view of all of the activities and engagements between these different factions, whether, the military, the FBI, the CIA, how much are these folks in bed with each other? I think it would be wild if we could get a true accounting of it.
It would be wild. You're right about that. And I don't mean to sound contrarian, but it's fun to speculate about, but I think we already know enough if we consider the urge to censorship that is happening in the West now. The seemingly multi-nation effort to deprecate our understanding of what healthy male and female role models are like in our society,
right?
Regardless of whether or not you fall outside of that framing, right, in the margins. Not to denigrate anyone who's outside of that framing, but let's not talk about exceptions, right? As if normalized, population scale patterns don't exist and have value, right? That we can trace through thousands of years of civilization. Let's not pretend that, right? And we take into account also the lack of accounting in the financial accounting of government, like Rumsfeld and the trillions unaccounted for. And then, of course, the Jeffrey Epstein saga and the Kennedy assassination and programs like MKUltra and so on. All of those data points lying in the past really should inform us that it's probably worse than we could ever imagine. That sounds like a black pill. It's not meant to be a black pill. It's just meant to be a sober reminder.
Oh no, I'm digging it.
So high that they're willing to lie brazenly about things we know to be true or not true.
Yeah, and again, this is on a governmental level, political. I think that's one spectrum of the problem for we the people. I think a lot of people don't consider the potential problems that are manufactured and propagandized from the private sector.
That's just it. This is what the real nature of fascism is, right?
There you
Take
go.
the framing from Antifa and street protests and you're a fascist, you're not. This is, Hanna-Barbera cartoon level analysis. Think of a fascist in the pure Italian sense that was, embodied by Mussolini, the merger of state power and corporate power, right? And that's nothing new. That existed in the time of the Romans. And long before the Romans, it existed in the time of the very first city-states where you had a sedentary population of aristocrats or whatever counted for aristocrats in that context, right? Skimming the labor of others through access to means, methods, and technologies that they were able to gatekeep and preserve value for in the context of an agricultural labor force, right?
Mm-hmm.
Temples, priests, bureaucracies. So it scales through each era of history. So the very nature of every state is that of a predator who is literally just feeding off of your energy. This sounds perhaps like a hyperbolic statement. I don't think it is.
I don't think it is. I was trying to do some mental gymnastics yesterday, and you might be the perfect person to engage in this activity with. I'm trying to get a broader image of my head of it, and I think you're putting it correctly, fascism. And I don't think that I understand as much as you do at all. So this is why I think you might be fun to engage this with. So in my head, Wolf, I see companies like Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, weapons manufacturing companies, right? That's what they do for a living. They make money when there's war and conflict. It's that simple. Like, they need to sell weapons, right? So I'm going to do I'm going to jump all over the place here and see if you can help me with my thoughts. So imagine if I have a company, you have a company, your friend has a company, my friend has a company. We make weapons. Like, that's what we do. If I'm trying to manipulate the country that I reside in to promote the benefit of my corporation, I'm certainly not going to simply invest in one side of the political aisle. I would invest in both. So now I have monies going to Democrats and Republicans. I'm a U.S. based company, but I got tons of money to boot, Wolf, and it's very important. So besides the government factions that we mentioned earlier that would be conspiring with Hollywood and movies, I would imagine that the corporations do that directly also, that they would manufacture their own propaganda. I would also imagine that there might be like trade groups where, yes, I might be able to afford a lot on my own, but there might be a lot of smaller companies that can't necessarily provide massive investment. But I imagine that there's probably trade groups for the industry where, you pay a certain amount a year, and that trade group would now also invest in both sides of the aisle and create propaganda so that, wars continue to happen, because we need that. We might even invest in, fake news and stuff like that, because it's good for our business. And now I would imagine that this is happening in my country, in this industry. I would imagine it would be happening in your country if you were a titan of the Canadian military-industrial complex. I would imagine that we would probably have meetings and say, like, well, our politicians and your politicians aren't really necessarily angry enough with each other. Is there anything that you can do in your country to maybe get that guy out, make him look worse, incentivize him to go for that bill that causes the next conflict? Because I know I got my guy covered over here. I spoke to the dudes over in Japan, and they're on board. So, do you follow where my brain is running on this stuff, Wolf?
You're talking about private interest groups pursuing their private interests under camouflage. So yeah, of course, it's called human nature.
Right? Like, it's a,
Yes.
right. I'm not a lunatic for suspecting that
No,
this activity is not only ongoing but rampant,
just look at any
very
society.
pervasive.
Hmm. It's like clan structure, right? Except this isn't a clan of blood anymore. It's a clan of financial interest, right? Do your interests align with ours? Great. How do we know we can trust you? Great. The further up the chain you go, right? The closer to the bone, the sweeter the meat, right? So the further up the chain of concentrated power you go, the greater the risks, the greater the rewards, but especially the harder it is to trust your counterparty. So what's the number one way? Imagine the most horrible thing to have over your head, to be patched in, right? To be initiated, to be granted a seat at the table in the largest going concerns for power and predation, right? Would your word be enough? Of course not. You would essentially have to pre-compromise yourself by acquiescing to be blackmail initiated into the high table. Is that too dark?
No, not at all. Many years ago, a friend of mine made this suggestion, and I would say at the time I didn't necessarily immediately agree with him, but in hindsight, it sure makes me wonder how right he may have been. And his suggestion was, you can't become the president of the United States until first they somehow finagle a video of you bending over a little boy over a desk so that they have skeletons in the closet that they can dangle in front of you forever. That was his suggestion.
Yeah. I don't know if it would happen quite at that relatively low level, and that might sound shocking to characterize the president of the United States as being a low level of power. I don't think that's unfair. He's certainly invested in the overall thing, whatever that is, right? The multiple interest, multiple stakeholder venture. But I think the whole idea that money talks, wealth whispers, and power doesn't have to say anything at all, right? We don't know the genuinely powerful people who are able to actually incentivize those men and women who are willing to become participants in the staged, managed theater of politics, as it is a cover for extraction of wealth from otherwise captive populations, or at least outmaneuvered populations.
I agree with that. I think that's also something from my experience that it's hard to express to folks in a way that I feel they truly understand and appreciate the statement. And that is, if you know the name of the people, they're not that wealthy and they're not that powerful. There are more wealthy and more powerful people that you will never know their names, and they invest heartily in that, and they invest heartily in you knowing the other people's names, and those people are the pawns on the chessboard of the actual royalty of the supposed chessboard, and they're
The shot callers, yeah. Now, for folks just casually listening, you might think, oh, wow, this is all really speculative talk, granted. And it's also not directly falsifiable, also granted. But if you pay some extra attention to history and read more than one source on an issue of history that you find interesting, and then if you contrast that with your own recent history in terms of the civilization you belong to, touchstones like the moon landings, the World War II atrocities committed on all sides, right? All sides. The coup of the United States with Kennedy, the gold seizures of 1933, the illegitimacy of the Vietnam War, right? The psychological horror and terror of the Patriot Act, right? The likely false flag event or false flag elements in whole or in part, I don't know which, of tragedies like the 9/11 attacks and the October 7th attacks, right? the multi-decade open-air concentration camp, right, in the Levant, in and around Gaza, right? Regardless of how you feel about Judaism or Islam, right? Think about the human beings trapped between state powers, right? All of that for me is sufficient to realize I don't need to be able to directly falsify these musings. I can infer from history, right, in the history of my own life on Earth, that a lot of this is at least directionally true, if not specifically true. And for me, that's enough.
Yeah, I'm perfectly content with that as well. That what I can infer works fine for me, and all I can do is share my understanding, put it on the table of possibility. You know, that Occam's razor thing. My experience is of value to me for sure until somebody can negate its value. But like, good luck doing that. But either way, it's just, you know, it's I display my experience for the consideration of others because obviously it has value to me. And I would think it inappropriate for me to withhold that information when the implications of that could be as terrible as I can consider. I mean, this whole Department of War thing has been fantastic for me. Them making the announcement that directed energy weapons exist, that they possess them and they're scaling them up. Well, fantastic, because now I'm no longer just some lunatic plumber, you know, barking from the section that everybody ignores. So, you know, the implications of these systems are what I have been trying to get folks to consider now for 6 years. Well, 6 years ago when I went public, the systems that I went public on were already operational for at least 10 years. So we're now at 16 years have passed, and the Department of War is now saying, today, we have these systems. Well, I know they had them at least 16 years ago. I know the system that was embedded in the ice, the ELF system, had to have been there a really long time for it to have been embedded in the ice at the time that I got there. The rest of the stuff was, you know, more observably new, but I'll bet you that ELF system was there back since the Navy was running the facility.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. Even if it was in a prototype form, all right, a first model with far fewer components, it would have been a trial run of sorts, or at least a what's the word I'm looking for? The term I'm looking for? Not a dry run, but a proof of concept test, right? Essentially, to see if a location at the south, in an area like the South Pole, would be operationally valuable beyond a nominal level, right? But beyond the most basic level, like some presence is better than none. Okay, just put a couple of schlubs there.
Yeah,
that's not what I mean. That area has long-term potential strategic value. We better get someone there now because that matters, right? That precedent matters, and possession is 9/10 of the law, right?
Yes. Yep, absolutely. I think the term they like is expendables, Wolf.
Well, yeah, the schlubs are expendable, sure.
Yeah, I take no offense to that term.
I didn't mean you. I just
no, it's all good. I was present and accounted for as one of the slubs / expendables.
in Western history, the history of England, right, and the UK in general, we know that there are guilds and there are industrial concerns and banking concerns and dynastic family concerns, and then the mass of the population, which, if they are either motivated or perturbed to wake up, typically find it much easier to cooperate and go along to get along with established powers or live the life of an immiserated serf. That's a decision a lot of people are faced with, and it's very easy to go back to sleep and roll over and you know, lay in the warm spot in the bed until you find out the bed's been shit. Not by you.
Yep, the life of the average mortgage payer. Budweiser beers on sale. My team's playing Monday Night Football. They might make it to the Super Bowl. I mean, woof. What else do you need in life?
Yeah, William Cooper made a decent video about that, or at least there's a video clip of him commenting about that, the bread and circuses angle of public discourse and public politics. Meanwhile, we have what seem to be, clear violations, at least in spirit, if not the letter of the law, of Fourth Amendment and Fifth Amendment constitutional rights, happening in the USA on camera for everyone to see and fight about. We are continually encouraged to look sideways at each other instead of up at who's pissing on us and telling it's rain.
Yeah, it makes me wonder now. So when you bring up bread and circuses, right? Obviously, it's a reference to an activity that was, we get it from Roman times and the Caesars and the Colosseum and that stuff, right? So we know that it's been going on at least that long. But apparently at that time, they were already aware of its wonderful function. So how long was it been going on before that? And then back to this, conversation that we just had moments ago about, the uber elite that we don't even get to know their names. And, this is a long time, like these nefarious factions have been growing their skill set and their toolkit for a very long time. Like this is where I get into the idea of, the breakaway civilization to me is the nefarious aspect, moving further and further and further into the shadows. And whatever it is that they're up to that we're not privy to, whoever they bring over to that side, I see that as the breakaway civilization, that they're going to have more money than they know what to do with. Money's not the issue. They've commandeered all of the markets. They can make money. They can have all the money they want in a millisecond because they can take it from us. I mean, straight up, if it's a money thing, if money's the goal, they already have ways and means to remove it from us, and now it's theirs. That could happen overnight, tomorrow. I mean, this is like, what happened in the stock market crash. What was that, 1929? I laugh at people with the stock market when the stock market crashes and they're like, oh, everybody lost tons of money. My first question to them is, to whom? Because the money didn't disintegrate. So if a whole bunch of people lost tons of money, to whom? Because someone made out like a bandit.
Change the word money to value, because
right.
Money is the token, right? It's
absolutely
just a token. The value.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, somebody raked it all in. Mm-hmm. So now the power.
This is not.
Go ahead.
You go ahead. I'm sorry. No, you continue.
Okay, the power of the stock markets and those types of things, it's the ability to make it tank. A lot of people don't realize that. The stocks will technically always go up, but if you have the ability to make it tank and you can schedule it, you can sell all your stuff the day before at the highest market value, and then you tank the market, and then you wait for the next day, and you buy everything low, and you receive all of the value thereof, Wolf, and then it goes up again, naturally, and you win again. And you keep doing that, and you just keep fleecing the market. That's true market manipulation.
It is, and I don't want folks to think this is all blackpilling, right? Saying that this happens isn't to say that it's inevitable. It also isn't to say that it can't be resisted or countered. Of course it can be, but it will never be easy. And the longer we go without investing cost and risk into it, the more that cost and risk price will be for the people who come after us. And again, that's really easy for me to say. Mm-hmm. It's, unfalsifiable. It's very general. But again, I can only defend that by looking at history and inferring from history what the world looks like today, right? If there were primarily random or market or unmodified forces primarily being supported or funded in our economy, you'd figure there'd be 50-50 or 60-40 in terms of the probabilities of the direction of outcomes. I don't think it's that par, good and bad, for and against. It's 90-10 at least in favor of continuing centralization, continuing wealth extraction, and continuing power consolidation. So the wind is blowing in a definite direction.
I even think I recently came across some information that said that when Elon Musk was on Joe Rogan's podcast and smoked weed with him, that the next day, apparently the ramifications were that the Tesla stocks took a major hit. They, of course, recovered, Wolf, but it makes me wonder, could that have been a contrived activity? Did they have, consultants researching and being like, well, he's going on Joe Rogan. Oh, well, what's something we could potentially do? Right. So you smell what I'm cooking there.
Sure.
Yeah. It makes me wonder about how many times activities like that occur. Right. So if you and I are on the board of some company and we're big stockholders and things like that, like, is that also something that rich people do regularly? Is like just get together and be like, how can we tank the stock of our own company next month?
Well, it's like a beaver altering the terrain it lives in simply by functioning, cutting down trees, building dams, right? Over time, it naturally alters the terrain it's in, and that sets up feedback loops. Mm-hmm. Now, when an animal doesn't have a concept of the future like humans do, right? When they don't have a concept of mortality like humans do, when they're not able to symbolically understand cause and effect beyond their immediate survival needs like humans can do, you then realize, well, if the environment is like this and then that happened, well, what if we can make the environment a little bit like that and then see what happens? Can we actually engineer environments? And then you just draw a parallel. Can we engineer incentives? Mm-hmm. And then can we count on enough people, a mathematically significant number of reliably predictable people, right, to behave in a certain way? Of course you can. Mm-hmm. Then you have the essentials of market manipulation. I just shared a graphic that outlines all of that. It's actually an algorithm that is related to predator-prey dynamics. And this slide I shared called Dysfunction by Design, you can use it as a template, or you can analogize from it into other areas of any kind of energy exchange, right? Predator-prey dynamics. Points 7 and 8, stock price go up, stock price go down. If you don't know what short selling is, what Eric just described about tanking a market, of course, without breaking the law to do so, right? You've got to be very careful, and hiring an army of lawyers and accountants to make sure you have legal protection is just an operating cost.
Even with you saying that, Wolf, I feel like there's so many ways that they could work around the legal problems. It's just too easy.
Yes, you literally don't write anything down, and you only speak face to face at mm-hmm. 1 or 2 conventions held throughout the year, and you keep it
with authors that are on the payroll. So here's what I'm thinking, right? If there's a big old company, and there's major shareholders, right? The whales of shareholders, and then there could be millions of Americans that could be invested into a large company with a nominal amount of shares. Let's say Apple. Apple's a big company, right? They got shareholders. They probably have large portions and dividends, and then there's probably a lot of average mortgage payers that are like, oh, I'm going to buy Apple stock. What a great company. I'm going to be rich someday. But it seems to me that it would be really easy for the whale shareholders to have a face-to-face meeting with a reporter and give them a fake story and just say Apple Insider states that the new Apple phone has a glitch that they don't want anyone to know about yet. And then all of a sudden the story hits, a couple other people on Reuters moving around, and next thing you know, the stock takes a hit.
So essentially the corporate version of a false flag event.
I guess
There's
so.
no precedent for that whatsoever. That's crazy conspiracy talk.
But that would be lucrative, right? If if it was possible to pull that off, like people could, I don't know what, make millions.
Not only that, but you wouldn't even need to make a lot of money yourself, right? If you've seen the movie Snatch, where Bricktop, right, has fixed a fight, right, and then the fight doesn't go quite the way he wants, and one of the people who had the inside information comes up to him and says, the bet didn't go the way I wanted. Bricktop looks at him and says, when I throw a bone to a dog, I don't want to know how it tastes. So they need not even take any direct financial risk. They merely need to give the information of the situation they might want to engineer to a group of people to offload the risk and simply be told, we'll give you the info. If you profit from it, you give us a cut, and we'll know you can keep your mouth shut, and we'll do business in the future. Consider this an audition. It's that simple.
Yeah. It really is that simple. And there's enough folks that might suffer, what I refer to as, negative human character traits, greed. I've often said, when I assess folks, one of the things I try to assess them for is their level of compromisability. And greed is a huge one. I mean, there's so many people, when you're stuck in average mortgage payer mode, living paycheck to paycheck, month to month, there's a huge portion of the population of this planet that you can instantaneously get them to do whatever the fuck you want by offering them some, not even tons of money.
You offer them relief from essentially what is dependency engineering.
There you go. Yeah, you don't even have to offer them like riches, just enough to remove to provide relief for the constrictions that they're currently operating under.
Consider it class mobility in the context of a breakaway civilization, which is a grandiose way of saying essentially a private members club or the equivalent of a homeowners association, but it's transnational and not tied to a particular ethnic or religious identity. It is tied to your ability to earn and kick up to the bosses, literally a cartel structure.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned like the whole, like the club, the country club. I used to work in very affluent country clubs on Long Island. Like even like I would say I worked in all of them, and it was funny because there was even levels. Like I could be working in one country club and hearing people talk about the other country club that's even more exclusive and nobody can really get in there. But I could, like as a plumber, I worked all of them and listened to the levels of exclusivity and experienced firsthand. And it always makes me laugh, actually. But I don't know if people can appreciate how much, like when I say I was invisible, I was such a nothing to these people. Like hired help, servant, whatever word you find appropriate, peon, schlub, expendable. It was so, I think the right, palpable being in that dynamic. Like I could literally walk past people that you could observe them looking through you. You're not there. If you attempted to engage them, they would like almost look at you like an apparition appeared before them.
My God, it speaks.
Yeah, like exactly. Yes, I'm glad. Yeah, they would be dumbfounded at your effort of engagement. And they would feel to be under no obligation to engage. They would look at you like you have obviously lost your mind. I don't speak to men in a uniform.
There's a mundane parallel we can all draw. Time. And I've done this. I've actually done this more than once when I walk my dog out and about. But I've actually stopped and chatted with the people picking up trash and basically doing sanitation engineering in the city I live in. And I've said to them more than once, thank you for doing an otherwise thankless job, And very few people, will pretend to even see them. Right? Same thing with mail carriers or power infrastructure workers or people essentially doing the maintenance work because I think we all realize how valuable and important maintenance is and how much hard work and risk is involved in it. But it's kind of shameful that we're not doing more to carry our own weight in that sense in the context of civilization. So we just outsource it and we pretend we don't know how the sausage is being made. And it's easy for us to look away because it's costly to acknowledge, our ability to buy steak and chicken and live with heat and power depends on not just the hard work of blue collar men and women here at home, but literally on the wealth and agency transfer from peoples, right, much more economically oppressed overseas than we are. And I don't want to sound like a communist or a Marxist. I'm not either of those foul things, but I do think we should consider the costs we may not necessarily be aware we impose on other people to live the way we do. That's one of the reasons we're seeing a degrowth phase happen now, right? The very upper levels of our society and the pyramid of wealth extraction realize the global order is changing now back to a multi-regional, multipolar kind of framing, which means, the fat that you can trim and skim from the international system that used to be kind of sourced from large numbers of people at a global scale being preyed upon, that model is now breaking, and we're going to have to scale back to much more, quote, sustainable local farming, unquote. And we can't have that happen with pesky Westerners and their ideas about freedom of speech and bodily autonomy and, the right to personal defense and the right not to have your children brainwashed into removing their genitals before they reach the age of maturity.
I was just bringing up Mr. Flack had put in a request, and I did approve it, but I'm still showing him as a listener on my end, so I hope it worked out for you, Flack. I'm not sure how functional this system is today. Yeah, I had a feeling it was glitchy.
He's still showing as listener for me too, but he'll pop in, I guess, when he's ready.
Oh, there's an additional request coming in now. Oh, that's Mr. Daz. See if he can break through the barrier.
While we're waiting for Daz, Eric, and I don't want to spin off into this whole topic entirely. It's a very fraught topic, but as far as I can tell, I'm seeing very clear Fourth Amendment violations all across the news right now in the United States. Is that just an outsider's prejudiced view, or would you agree in the broad sense
Fourth Amendment being like harassing people in the streets and asking them for their papers?
Essentially, it's the right to be safe and secure in your persons and papers against unreasonable search and seizure. And
Gotcha. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we were talking about the same amendment because my brain is not always super accurate on stuff like that. But yes, there are egregious activities that are happening right now in that regard. It's off the wall. It to me it's Nazi activities occurring contemporarily. Where are your papers? Like there's no difference in my mind's eye.
So the parallel is clear to you as well. I'm not imagining this. I'm not.
Oh no, not at all. I'm right there with you. I don't understand. I don't understand how other people can't make the correlation that, we all criticize the German people back during World War II. And we're like, oh, why didn't you do anything about it when the brown shirts were in the street asking people for their like we're those people now. We're tolerating the exact same activity that we criticized of others. Where are your papers, Herr Wolf?
My dog ate them.
Right? Pretty soon we're going to start hearing, if you do not have your papers, you are the terrorist. Due to the Patriot Act, we will hang all terrorists at high noon. You have been identified as a terrorist.
You've just hit on something that's extremely important because a lot of language lawyers will hinge the definition of a terrorist based on whether it's a state or non-state actor. If you set aside that kind of sophistry, it is a form of sophistry, and instead look at the operational outcomes of the actions being taken, what would you name as the greatest terrorist nation on earth?
Right now?
Well, in human history, actually.
Oh, in human history.
The greatest terrorist nation in
Rome?
human history.
Rome, maybe, perhaps?
United States of America.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was thinking. I was thinking, well, we currently hold the title, and then I was trying to think of if there was anybody historically worse, and I couldn't think of one.
Now, this is not a slight against American citizens. It is not a slight against the spirit of the Declaration of Independence as a political manifesto. It's not a slight against the language and clear intentions of the writers of the Constitution and of the Bill of Rights. It is a slight against the takeover of civil society that is being prosecuted by, of course, private interests combined with a lack of civic duty on the part of us, the citizenry. We're co-equals in that equation.
I couldn't agree more. We do have Daz here with his hand up, so welcome, Mr. Daza.
Hi, Eric. Hello, everybody. It's just really just to say hi. I can never really flow with your conversations on these high levels, but I've missed your spaces. It's been, I think, maybe over a week. So I'm over on YouTube. There's like this consciousness conference happening, which is really great. So I can't stay, but I did want to just come in before you closed and say hi, Eric.
You got it, Daz. You can always listen back to these as well, and I respect that you say that the conversations are a bit mentally challenging for you, but that's how you up your game, sir. You know, if you keep hanging out in conversations where you understand everything that's being spoken, I think of it like basketball. When my son was growing up and he came home and told me how he's by far the greatest basketball player in the neighborhood, I said, you need to go find a different court to play on where you're the worst, because that's how you're going to up your game. So
no, it's so true, and like I know that I'm not a stupid person.
You're
but
not.
Just being in the UFO community, I always said that they're the most advanced. So I'm here a lot of the time just thinking, I'm so dumb, and I know that I'm not dumb, but that's just how it feels because there's so many smart people, you know.
that's it. I totally understand where you're coming from, Daz. I'm just going to suggest that now you're in the right space. That's all. You know that. I've heard a million times. Whenever you find that you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Right? Go to a different room, because now all those dummies are going to drag you down to their level.
It's so true, but I do need to pop off. I just wanted to say hi. I hope
You got it.
you're all right. Are you going to be going back to dailies or probably?
I will not be going back to dailies for a bit. I had a bit of a schedule change in the real world, so I have some things that I have to attend to. But I'm gonna do my best to adjust my schedule and get back into more regular spaces. But additionally, I took a big fall this week. I slipped on the ice and destroyed my left ankle. So besides this schedule change, I'm having to deal with that as well. So first and foremost, I have to get my health going. Then I have to get my new schedule going. So I have some things to attend to, but I will come back as fast and furious as possible. I always have the best of intentions, but I can only put so much energy to so many things at any one given time. But yeah, thank you for popping in, Daz. And absolutely, I intend to get back onto a routine, but I have to mend a few things first. I'm a cripple right now.
No pressure. I get it. Like, we've got so many stuff going on in our real lives as well. I think with the neurodivergence, I'm very used to the patterns and the consistencies. And because your space was a consistent one, it's very easy to fall into that. So I'll look out for the next one.
You got it, Daz. I'm glad I got you hooked on knowledge.
Totally. Take care, yeah?
You too, Daz. Be well. That's nice to hear.
You didn't damage your Achilles tendon, did you?
Oh my left foot. Wasn't that a movie? my left foot looks terrible. I took a spill on the ice the other day, and yeah, my ankle is all swollen out. My whole foot, my toes, everything's black and blue. It is not nice.
Feel better, bud.
Yeah, I mean, I'll survive. I mean, I've been hurt before, and I typically heal rapidly and well. It's just been a rough week, is the best way to put it. It's been a rough week.
Oh man, yeah, I'm not a big fan of the ice. I am not a slippery dealing with individual in a decent. Can we just go back to what was said right before?
Yeah, absolutely. Bring it on back, Mr. Flack.
I only say Rome because as far as the future and recent past is concerned, we've taken all of their old tactics as far as I guess invasion and then subjugation and then the taking and using of customs just in the right percentage to make the I guess the force that was being invaded and the people feel a little less bad about having their whole civilization taken over, you know. But that's what we do now. We take over a civilization. We take on just enough of their culture to where they don't feel like they are now the new slaves, you know. Like, but that's all learned from Rome.
Yeah, I mean, first we give them a McDonald's and a KFC and a Pizza Hut and a Taco Bell. You know, we start getting them conditioned, you know. Look what America has to provide. Don't eat the wonderfully healthy local food that you have. We have convenient food.
Yep. What's funny is like you go to different countries though, they don't fuck around like that. They force them to not put their shit garbage food in. Like the UK, if you go to KFC, it's totally different than the US, and it's in a better way. Like they don't use any dark meat for any of their chicken stuff, unless you go and get like a variety.
Wait, so the ingredients that are acceptable in America are banned in foreign nations? That's an interesting thing to consider.
Oh yeah, but what's funny is like it even crosses the boundaries of corporate greed, right? Like even they're willing to not take the paycheck to poison their citizens. You know, like unlike this country.
Understood. Like, so to me, it's like I get what you're getting at. Like, yes, the KFC has less poison in Britain, but it just to me
less poison in the poison though.
Yeah,
but it's just funny because Britain is worse as far as the citizens' rights and things are concerned. You know, you would think that they would just go above and beyond to fucking destroy the population, but even
fair enough. I would just say that historically, most other countries have protected their food supply better than the U.S., and I would suggest that there was a blatant concerted effort to corrupt the food supply of the U.S. as one of the original steps of the Operation Paperclip Nazis that came over to the U.S.
Correct. All you need to do is look at Far East Asia in the context of Korea and Japan post-World War II, and which of those two population groups actually began eating much more protein derived from meat. It would be the South Koreans. And look at the average height of men there compared to the average height of men in Japan, which is still primarily a healthier overall diet in terms of meat consumption, and a much longer history of Buddhism-based, dietary modification, I'll say. And you can trace that also to the consumption of grains, right? Look at the Vikings, right? In the colder environments through history, right? Harsh environments, a lot of meat, right? Concentrated, dense calories compared to warmer climes with much more grain-based dieting, right? You have a direct relationship between high levels of testosterone and high levels of risk-taking on the part of men, and an investment, in intertribal cooperation in the face of challenging environmental threats, right? Compare that to city-states in warmer climates and regions, and you have a lot more abundance to skim from, which means you have a lot more incentivization for secondary and tertiary forms of conflict. i.e., what's called women's conflict, poison and deception, versus mass bloodshed, right? With warriors, hacking each other to pieces with axes. You're right, Flack. It's domestication.
What's wild is how like that would have been so much easier to see maybe 100 years ago, but now where I guess trade and civilization has taken us, like we've ruined that. Like people aren't even eating properly enough to sustain their own environment. Just weather-wise, everyone's offshot to gluten-based fucking everything. So.
For most of human history, right, people have died because of lack of calories. Now people are dying from an overabundance of calories, at least in the first world.
Yep.
I mean, what the hell in the grocery store is actually food anymore? Seriously, I mean, it's funny in one breath to say it, but insane when you really consider. Like, walk around the goddamn grocery store and tell me what percentage of the products for sale are food.
Oh man, you can't even count Campbell's in there. The CEO I forget what it was, but it was like private messaging between the company, and he was lambasting their customers for actually eating their food.
You called it food, Flack. You propagandist.
Foodstuffs, food-like substances.
Food-like products.
Food-flavored thing.
The next time you're in a grocery mart, I don't recommend buying this, but go to a package of like Kraft cheese slices or Velveeta cheese slices, the jiggly stuff in the plastic, right? And read the packaging. You might see this phrase on it: cheese food product.
Oh, they used to be on the government cheese, dude. I remember that on boxes of government cheese, like working in a deli as a kid. Like, oh man, it would come in these big amorphous gray corrugated little fucking boxes, and it would say government grade foodstuff product or something very similar to the effect. And I was like, is this even food? It doesn't cut like food on the slicer, you know what I mean? Like, and some people just take the whole brick. They'd be like, okay, I'm here for my cheese brick, and I'd be like, your cheese like food product. Thing.
One of the things that I used to do to pass my time at the South Pole Station was we had what they called logistics arches, the stuff buried underneath the ice for storage. We had about 10 years worth of food stored down in the arches, and I used to have to pass through the food logistic arch to do my rounds in the fuel arch, which was to the rear of that one. So I would slowly walk through the food arch, and like the Home Depot racks, that the material, like the orange racks, we had those things stacked really high, and there's just boxes of food. It's minus 60 degrees in there. It's 0% humidity, so this stuff could last forever, so to say. But it was a pastime of mine when I walked through there to find the newest products. All of this stuff was so old. Like, I think, like, since I was there in 2010, I think the newest thing that I saw was expired in 2006. Okay? So it was like, I used to joke around that like the Raytheon purchasing agent must like travel around the world and be like, when people are going to like throw out tons of food waste, that he would be like, whoa, don't throw that in the dumpster. We'll take all of those Connexes full of that stuff that you were going to throw out. I'm from Raytheon. We'll give you $1 for it. We got folks at the South Pole we can feed this to. So yeah, we'll take
Jesus.
that. So the newest thing expired in 2006, and then in my perusing, one of my favorite finds. And I've worked commercial kitchens my whole life, so like I'm familiar with different grades of food and stuff. But I never saw this anywhere else in the world where I worked. But we had in those shelves, I came across a box, and it just simply said on it, institutional beef. And that one I was like, wow, hysterical. That sounds delicious. And I took a picture of it and I sent it to my dad, and he was like, "Oh, they're serving you crazy cows."
Think about
cows. Hell yeah.
And now imagine
this is institutionalized beef.
I'm sorry, Flack, you go ahead.
Oh no, you were low, so I didn't hear that. I cut you off at first until after I stopped blabbering. Then I noticed you were talking. My bad, Wolf.
If you have pets, stop feeding them store-bought kibble, even if it's the best brand kibble you can get. It's essentially, repurposed industrial waste, right? Turned into pet food, the same way that fluoride was repurposed industrial waste, and other things. High fructose corn syrup, right? It's a side effect of corn subsidies to U.S. farmers, right? It's not a natural market. And what you're describing with these, in industrial food products for humans, it's the essential. I'm sorry, it's the equivalent of pet kibble, but for humans.
Well, I'm not sure if I ever mentioned to you before, or if I had and you followed up, but I had mentioned to you there was a 2-season television series called Hunters with Al Pacino. Do you recall that?
I do. I looked into it. I tried to download a couple of the episodes, but then something drew my attention to other work, so I haven't watched it yet.
10-4. Definitely start with season 1, episode 1, and that'll hook you right in. But what's covered in that series, I'll give you a bit of a spoiler alert. First and foremost, when the series starts, it does say it's based on a true story, which I think is fantastic. But in that show, they actually cover the Operation Paperclip folks' nefarious plot about the American food supply and high fructose syrup production and all of that. And again, Operation Paperclip, Greater Long Island area, based on a true story. Like, I'm going to be honest with you, I almost fell off my couch watching this series because of the truth being presented. And now this is part of my life experience that I'm just going to put out there, and people can do with it what they want. When I was a very little boy, I used to go to the Catskills all the time in a very German community where up until 1994, the local paper was still written in German and called the Volksblatt. But this is well before that 1994 time period that I had a conversation with a girl who I would say is marrying into a family of what are often referred to as the good Germans by folks from these programs. When I was a child, I would frequently come across somebody who was former Nazi SS, had been to the Nuremberg trials, was found innocent, completely innocent. But so these are the circles that I was in and this girl was in. And I was very little, and she was maybe in her teens, but in the same circles. And she came to me one day very concerned, and she wanted to have a conversation with me. And she was hammering down on, like, Eric, I need to talk to you, and I want you to make sure that you listen and understand everything that I'm about to tell you. And she proceeded, this is probably the early 80s, she proceeded to start telling me, educating me on, someday there will be something called high fructose corn syrup and hydrogenated oil, Eric. Make sure, and she was saying, repeat this. She was say it, high fructose corn syrup, hydrogenated oil. You hear me? Yes, I hear you. And she started telling me that it's going to start being introduced into products in the grocery store, and that soon everything in the grocery store will have these ingredients in them, and that I am never to eat them. Right? So tell me you're never going to eat them, Eric. I'm like, I will never eat them. Tell me that you know that they're bad. I know that they're bad. She was concerned, thoroughly flustered and concerned. But I can remember the hammock on the dairy farm that I was sitting in as she was telling me this stuff. And then when I was watching this show and they were expressing that they were building this plan, I mean, I was making obvious flashback connections to my own youth and being like, holy fuck. I remember when this was going down.
Anyone listening to that who doubts its verisimilitude, how close to reality it could be, I have a single word for you and then a name associated with that word. The word is aspartame, and the name is Donald Rumsfeld.
Oh, what's his connection to aspartame?
He worked for a corporate lobby that pushed aspartame remaining a legal food additive, even though it's linked to neurocognitive decline.
Oh, my goodness.
This is in the 80s, I believe.
Jiminy crickets.
Yeah, aspartame essentially is an aggravating element in neurocognitive decline.
Yeah.
Don't drink diet soda, not with aspartame.
Right. Yeah, high fructose corn syrup mixed with aspartame.
Can you fucking imagine?
Yeah, I mean, seriously, just... Yeah, pick your poison. Go to the grocery store, pick your poison.
Well, weight gain, abdominal fat, metabolic disorder, drug dependency.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sloth, low energy,
Spice Girls.
dysregulated mood cycles, right? Reduced testosterone, reduced activity, right? Estrogen disruption.
A satellite location for the bank that I use is in the grocery store by me. So they have like weekend hours. So super convenient, right? I was walking through there the other day, and I only vaguely know of this Mr. Beast guy as being some like online personality. But I was walking through the grocery store, and I saw on the end cap they had like these Mr. Beast energy bar things, and I was like, oh man, you got to be shitting me. And then I started paying attention to there's a lot more like celebrity endorsed food products than I recall as a kid. Like there's like I don't know, I'm trying to remember what I saw. Like
the cereal aisle. Go down the cereal aisle, you'll see every sports fucking douchebag.
Well, even more like I see like there's
cereal.
like singers and rappers and stuff that'll be featured now on like I'm trying to think of what it was. I think it was like a flavor of Oreo cookies or something where like I don't know, it was like the Snooki cookie of the month. I don't remember exactly what propaganda I was seeing, but I remember just like looking at the shelf and being like, what the fuck's going on right now? Like
R2D2 Oreo cookies.
Yes,
Darth
yes.
Vader Kleenex, you know?
Yes. Like stuff that doesn't seem to match.
That's the full evolution of 50 Cent getting in the game of vitamin water.
Yes.
You know, like that's where we're at now to like in that timeline, you know, because I have a big problem with like sports players, right?
Oh, you're totally rugged. I saw a short little video clip this morning. It was pretty funny. It was a little girl pointing out to her mom in the grocery store that The Rock, you know, the wrestler, the actor wrestler guy, The Rock, he has a product line of hair care products. He's bald.
What the fuck? Yeah, people are retarded now. So while I was rugging, I was trying to explain. There's the what's it called? The bullshit of the sports players getting on every sugary kids cereal.
Oh Jesus!
You know, they don't eat it. And there was a video of NASCAR guys pouring out their Monster Energy drinks that they're fucking sponsored by, and then filling it back up with filtered like Voss water bottles. You know what I mean? Where like they won't even drink the shit.
Of course not.
I don't know. I think it's pathetic. Like you should be forced to intake the shit you're trying to sell to other people.
I drink coffee with technically I sometimes add organic milk to it, which I mean is still super questionable, but at least I target as best I can, right? And then I drink water, and then I drink organic cranberry juice with Costco vodka and Costco seltzer. That's pretty much all I consume beverage-wise. Different varying amounts of mixtures of those. Sometimes there's no vodka and it's just the cranberry juice and the seltzer. If it's a bad day, it might have more vodka than some other days, but it's whatever. But technically, those are the only liquids that I consume. I don't drink like high fructose corn syrup bubbly product with aspartame. Like, that blows my mind that people don't read ingredients at all. Like, and when you do read ingredients, it's terrifying. It's a list of chemicals. There's no food there.
Just the other day, I saw for a weight loss app, right? Numi or some dumb thing. I'm not even gonna fucking try to remember the name. But I remember that the spokesperson for this app was the woman who played. She was the British Bridesmaids, she's like 400 pounds in that movie, and the like punchline of the whole joke is that she's mildly fucking retarded. You know, she just makes like the entire film, but she's like, no one's bastion of fucking health, and you're gonna use that person health application? Like, go fuck yourself.
Oh, what was that? Didn't we had some fucking, there was like a beast of a lady that was in charge of, I forget, the U.S. Department of Health or something, but like, yeah, she would get up at the podium and she looked like she was about to drop dead from obesity, but she was, speaking on the health of the fucking people. Like, it's mind-numbing. Like, we should have like some, Jack LaLanne type dude.
Look, I know. Exactly. Hell, I'll even let who is it, Lance Armstrong, even though he was juicing most of his career, I'll listen to him about fucking health, like one testicle short, and I'll still hear what he has to say about some things.
Oh, what was that? Who was that swimmer that won all the Olympic medals back in the day, but then they were like, he smokes weed, he's a pothead, he's a lazy pothead. Oh, you're rugging again.
Totally different than smoking joints. Oh shit, man! I made a bong rip joke too that didn't land. Now I'm upset. He's been trading with his bong rip for. Yeah,
I think you might have to reset, Flack.
Can you hear me now?
You're getting robo choppy. I hear you now.
Ah, gee. Oh, you can hear me now. Okay, I was saying, but Phelps was doing bong rips.
Phelps, that's right. Yeah, Michael
so
Phelps.
That was more training.
Yeah.
He was doing lung training, in my opinion.
There you go. I actually, I've been a believer that smoking marijuana actually has advantages to the lungs that are less discussed.
Oh yeah, big time. Big time.
I have smoked on and off throughout my life, mostly on. But when there's certain jobs that I have to take where it's, not tolerated, I can put it down, because I'm not a reefer addict. But even with that being said, I've also smoked cigarettes off and on throughout my life. And I'm 50 years old. And here's the really weird thing. When I go, so a lot of the work that I have to go for what they call a fit test for respirators. And they have to test your lung capacity and make sure that you can, work with one of these and it's not to the detriment of your health. It's a qualifier for getting the position. You have to go for a fit test. In that process, they test your lung capacity. And the people giving me the test always freak out and look at me funny because they say that according to their system of measurement, I am reading at 110% lung capacity for my age.
Hell yes, those reefers.
Right?
Yeah, you gotta, the way you toke built that up.
I don't know what to equate it to. If smoking cigarettes is bad for your lungs, then I should have a lot of detriment. The only thing that I could think of that I've ever done to my lungs that could potentially counter that would be smoking a shitload of weed.
Keep in mind that genetics and your other lifestyle factors may be influencing that. They're not saying that you don't have any impairment at all. What they're saying is for the actuarial tables we use to determine what would be a green zone for you, you're beyond that to a degree that, you know, you're an edge case. What's going on?
Totally understood. There is a relativity to it, but it's also in this conversation. I'm also not talking about the massive amount of exposure my lungs have had to many other detrimental products. Working commercially and industrially, production, all kinds of stuff. I've almost dropped dead a few times from exposure to things. Yeah, once was in high school, once as an apprentice.
I had to go for a stress test some time back. I noticed some pain in my lower left jaw and my lower upper shoulder and down, and I thought, okay, I know what that could be. And I arranged to see a doctor and have a stress test done, where they had me running on a treadmill with a mask on and so on. And I did far better than I expected. I had to sign a waiver stating that, you know, essentially that if you drop dead of a heart attack, that's a non-trivial, you know, risk involved with any stress test, but, you know, you need the test. So I signed it, and it was surprising. You know, it's like the Bionic Man, or any TV show where you see an athlete running. Have you ever had a stress test yet? You must have.
Yep.
Yeah.
And also, too, if it also means you fail the test. If you drop dead of a heart attack on the treadmill, you fail.
Yeah. Self-disqualifying.
Yeah, it's just letting you sign off.
Yeah, it's a deal breaker.
I pushed, and I remembered the movie Gattaca, and I tried to keep a good face on, even though inside I was just dying.
Mm-hmm.
And I reached a point where I was satisfied that I did a good enough effort.
We also in addition to the fit test, which is for the respirator specifically, most of the jobs that I get up in the oil field, they also have what they call a fit for duty test. So you do actually have to go through physical activities. They'll put weights on you, make you climb a ladder. They'll give you stuff to carry up and down the stairs that, you know, they'll make you pick weight up from the ground, and they want you to use proper ergonomics and stuff like that. And, you know, bend your knees, don't lift with your back, which all this stuff cracks me up because I have to do what I have to do for the test. But in reality, I'm a half a fucking cripple from doing things wrong my whole life. So it really makes me laugh. It's like in real life, if I was on the job, I could get that thing off of the ground, but I'm going to do it in a way that's not the way that they make you do it for the test. But it's also not the negative way. Like, you know, I would normally kneel down, get something up onto my knee, then move. Like, I have workarounds to do things. But yeah, the fit for duty tests are very challenging for me in my gimpy self. So I get what you're saying. Like, you got to put your game face on, act like nothing hurts like crazy, and then lift. You know,
right, blend in.
Yeah, everything feels great, sir. Could I do it 4 more times, please? Don't mind the popping, snapping, and cracking sounds. I think we're past the 11 o'clock hour today, folks. I think I'm going to go grab some chow, probably take some more ibuprofen, ice up my foot, all kinds of fun things. But the good news is I've been tidying up some paperwork files. So when you're trying to find things to do and you're a gimpy cripple, that's what I'm doing. I'm going through.
Yeah, there's always the desk.
Exactly. There's always paperwork to clean up in my world because I loathe paperwork. So it does have a tendency to accumulate. But now, since I can't engage in other things, I can sit still and file paperwork. Yeehaw. But thanks, everybody, for joining in.
Yeehaw.
Thanks for joining, Flack. Thanks for joining, Par. Wolf, always a pleasure. Thank you for engaging the mental gymnastics earlier. And everybody else out there, I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll catch you all on the flip side, and be well. It's a beautiful Sunday. Enjoy.
Yeah, thank you. I saw you were on, so I was like, well, I better get in there. He hasn't been on for a while. So.
Yeah, I was sneaking around, Par. You found me. Good on you. I hope you have a nice lucky day at the tables. Or I'm sorry,
I'm doing okay.
at the one-armed bandit.
Yeah, I'm at Hard Rock. We're in the middle of this giant snowstorm.
Oh, cool.
But
Take some pictures.
It's a whole ass civilization in a building. So I prefer to do this than sitting home.
There you go. Well, don't be slipping and sliding out there. Put your hazard lights on your scooter.
Yeah. I mean, I don't go out. I'm here for the end of it.
There you go. Well, enjoy. Grab yourself an extra sirloin. Enjoy, folks.